Welcome, Robert, to the Leaders Who Care series.
Hey, thank you for having me, Mark.
No, it's my pleasure for sure, and great background. Tell us where you are.
Currently, I'm in Lake Wiley, South Carolina. Grew up in Fort Mill, South Carolina, so it's about 15 minutes from Fort Mill, like right on the lake, right across the border from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Sweet, nice territory. There's no doubt about it, and it looks like I can almost see that you're breathing clean air.
Clean air, man. Clean air. That's a benefit of being in the country, so to speak.
Yeah, no kidding.
Suburbs, so.
Well, can you we've kind of started, but can you kind of just give a real brief, not your whole background, we'll get into that, but a little brief background of yourself, family. Tell us who you are.
Yeah. Robert Mackey. Like I mentioned, grew up in Fort Mill, South Carolina. Went to Winston-Salem State University. Got a degree in business management, business administration, concentration in management. Played football there. Had a football scholarship there. Left there. Got an opportunity to play for the Houston Texans briefly. Got cut from there. Bounced around a little bit in arena football. And then kind of just started my life from there. After a couple of years, realized the NFL dream was kind of, I ain't gonna say it was dead in the water, but I kind of wanted to start my life because I had people behind me watching me and seeing how productive and that I was going to be. And I just want to make sure they saw like being able to change and adjust and work hard and accomplish something. So I ended up in Chicago. I started a foundation called the Lydia Smith Foundation. We'll get into that a little bit more, I'm pretty sure. But and now got introduced to the financial industry soon after that. To start with Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch, and now I have my own company, private equity firm called Paradise Equity Partners that focus on sports entertainment and tech that supports the space.
And what about family?
Yeah, wife, been married. We've been married going on 5 years now. I have a 3-year-old teenager in the house. She is freaking amazing. Her name is Sophia. My wife's name is Stephanie. My daughter's name is Sophia. I'm outside right now because it's like the war of the worlds in the house right now. It's
yeah.
But it's it's been great, man.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you're clearly somebody who has achieved heights and success at all different. I mean, in school, in business, and in community, not to mention sports. So before we delve deeper into that type of stuff, share with us what Simon Sinek calls your why, but what I like to ask is, why do you do what you do?
Well, growing up, you grow up in an environment where I didn't know the lack of that we had, like as far as like when it came to poverty growing up. I didn't realize like what it was until you start. Like I grew up in Fort Mill, so small town, so everybody, no matter your socioeconomic background, you go to the same schools, you play the same sport, like you play together the same sports and everything. So you make friends outside of your neighborhood when you tend to play sports. And so one of the guys I was playing basketball with went to his house, and it's a different experience. It was a different experience, and and it was just, but it's not like it was something that it wasn't anything for me to come back home and be ashamed of. But it just opened my mind up to the world, and so for me, I think the reason why I do what I do is because representation matters. And if kids see a person like me in a space that they're not familiar with, but at least when they see somebody that's from the neighborhood like theirs, and go out and do things that's not of the norm, it makes sure it helps me realize that the type of impact I can have if I provide any type of programming around the space that I'm in. And so my why is access and opportunity for people that's coming behind me.
Yeah, that's super cool. I just talked with somebody recently about that with hockey. I'm a hockey fan, and we had parents that were everything from top attorneys to the UPS driver to everything in between. And when we're in the arena, didn't Didn't matter.
Right.
We're all on the same team, and yet if you'd go to homes, you would notice a different team, if you will.
Yes.
But
Yes.
you raised a great point. It didn't mean you had to be um, embarrassed by where you were. It just meant, wow, we can do something. We can make a
Right.
difference. So
Right.
is that when you first realized that, if you will, you were somebody that wanted to be a leader who really cared about doing what you do?
Yeah. I think growing like I was the youngest out of my siblings. I was the youngest out of the guys I hung around with. And so sometimes when you're the youngest, you kind of sit back and watch
Mhm.
and learn. I think I want my mentor call it fellowship. Um, like so it's like you learn you learn how to be a leader by following, so to speak, and then why would people follow you if you were a leader, right? And so sitting back and we had our um things that we go through in the neighborhood, a lot of adversity,
Mm.
and I was able to overcome a lot of it when some weren't. And then sometimes you get thrown into a leadership position not even knowing, right? And so uh, for context, my junior year in high school, um 15 of my family and friends went to prison for selling drugs,
Mm.
and that's basically everybody but me. So I go to school one day with everybody, um, and the next day I go to school by myself. Then all the younger guys that's in high school, now they're looking at me like, what are we going to do now, Rob? And as far as like how we're going to like make a change, or what we're going to do to make sure this doesn't happen again. And now I'm thrown into the forefront of making a change in the neighborhood. Not um and like I can say I motivated 3 or 4 out of the 15 or 20 that was looking up to me. And then from there, like so you start realizing like the type of influence that you can have if you just have the discipline, the focus, the persistence, the like everything, the perseverance, everything that comes along with being a leader. And so and sacrifice is probably the biggest one.
Mhm.
And I was willing to sacrifice a lot of things that became accustomed to make sure the people that was coming behind me could have the type of access that they needed to thrive.
I remember, I like you probably, I learned a lot in sports about a lot of things, and I remember Pat Riley saying that his biggest legacy is seeing, you know, his players achieve, his assistant coaches achieve, his associate coaches achieve, the equipment manager that worked with him achieve. That was his biggest legacy. Even if they went to a competing team,
Right.
you'd compete, but that was still a legacy for him. Um, in a way, that's, you were put into a leadership position that you, as you said, didn't ask for, but yet to step up to. And
Right.
have you seen the people that you said followed you, then you influenced? Have you followed them still? Have you?
Oh yeah, like we're still for like, and they thank me to this day. Like I say, like you don't know, like
Right.
you just know you're just trying to get people to do the right thing and stay focused and everything. So you don't know. And half of the conversations I really don't remember. But they bring up a lot of stuff that I might have said that was wisdom at the time, but you just don't remember. You're just committed. And so and it's one of those things like you mentioned that I've been able to be I've been able to be successful in a lot of different areas in my life, and it all comes down to the commitment that I have and an investment that I have into the things that I'm doing, and I love investing in people because it doesn't cost anything but time, like and I'm willing to put that time in for for people that might not have the resources and everything and the education and the experience that I have in certain areas. Are willing to invest that time into people to make sure that they understand the type of path that they can take to be productive.
Well, I think that one of the key words you use there is invest versus just spend time, right?
Right, right, right.
And, and there's a reason this is called Leaders Who Care, because we found so often that the leaders who care are able to show that they've actually done better in their own personal life, in business, in whatever they're doing, because they really authentically, like you just said, it wasn't like, oh, I'm a leader now or whatever. You
Right.
just did it because you cared.
Right. Exactly. And a person asked me this weekend. We were hanging out, I was hanging out with a group of my friends, and one of the girls, like she has this amazing executive coaching company that she's doing, and it's based around um, social equity, inequality, and social justice, um, and she was like, "You're doing a lot of stuff." She's like, "What do you like?" She's like, "Could you tell me in one sentence what you would want your legacy to be?" And I was like, "I can tell you in 2 words." And so she was like, "What is it?" And I was like, "I care." I was
Hmm.
like, if people can say the worst thing about me, people can say the best thing about me, but at the end of their sentence or in their statements, they will be able to say like he cared at the end of the day. And so um and because that's all you can really ask for. That's all you can really ask for.
Well, yeah, and it's actually, I talked to another leader a while back. Now men especially, it's okay, and in fact it's even a skill set to be vulnerable as a
Right,
leader. So this
right,
executive told me, I'm having the easiest time I've ever had being a lead executive of the company, because I finally don't have to pretend that I know everything.
right. Exactly.
And think about it, right? It's like
Exactly.
the pressure was, you got to know everything, you got to be tough, you got to be this,
Right,
you got to be that.
right.
And really, to your point, is you just got to care.
Just gotta care. And like, and one thing about caring, it doesn't cost anything either. So and so it's just one of those things that is led that character I mean, I ain't gonna say character, but
Mhm.
that value system that I have when it comes to caring, is carried over in every facet of my life. And so when I'm bringing people into my business, when I'm bringing people into my foundation, when I'm bringing people into my house, um, they know when they're working with me and talking to me, like this is a family, like this is a family, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure we uplift each other.
Well, and you'd get this from sports again too. The number one thing they say that people need to fill their hearts and souls after you got your survival of air and food, the number one
Hmm.
thing that fills people's hearts and souls is belonging.
Yep,
And
yep,
belonging means somebody cares about them to have them belong
yep,
effectively.
yep.
So I'm sure you've seen that. You see it in team sports, you see it in business, right?
Definitely, definitely. And so um, especially in team sports, in football more so. Well, I can say football and basketball, but football is a different animal because it's so many players on the team,
Right.
and everybody doesn't get the same type of notoriety and same type of, like, so but everybody investment into the team leads to the team's success or the team's failure. And
Right.
so um and one commitment I made coming all the way through my career, whether it's in youth sports or high school or college or professional, is that I made sure that I engage with every person on the team.
Hmm.
Um, because at the end of the day, like these are relationships um, they just don't come around often. When you have like-minded individuals going for the same goal, putting in the same work or even more, um, and like you're together all the time, more than you're talking with, more than your family, more than your friends, and outside of sports. And so I made sure that I made sure I made lasting relationships, no matter if it's the first guy on the roster or the last guy on the roster. I made sure I made lasting relationships, and those relationships have carried, like it's another thing that's carried over through the different facets of my life.
Which, and I want to ask you another question related to that in a minute, but that easily flows into every aspect of your life. It's your personal, your community, your business, whatever, because people want to be around someone that actually does care, you know,
Yeah,
that no
yeah,
matter what. So that's super cool. We're engaged with different valued collaborators that we have. We're working on really creating systemic change out
Mhm.
there. Beyond inclusion, obviously, is important, but even beyond inclusion, and and part of that is, there's been this word called best practices out there
Mhm.
as
Yeah.
to in a company in anything actually. And but a lot of the conversation we've been having is, um, how can you get anywhere to bring change into so-called best practices that aren't really best practices because they haven't worked for the most part. And so it's become a conversation of maybe we need some like trusted practices rather than
Mhm.
best practices. And I wanted to ask you, if you can share some of your experiences. You were bridging access and opportunity to underrepresented or underserved, or however you want to call it, communities in all the arenas that you work.
Mhm.
Personal, community, sports, business.
Okay. One of the things that we did, I'll start with the foundation first, the Lydia Smith Foundation, which is named after my mom.
Hmm.
Um, and one of the things we developed there was the Developing Young Leaders in Research program. And I think I'm gonna preface this by saying, like, being intentional, being intentional about the change that you want to see and want to make, and having a great understanding of what's needed in the markets that you're in. And so I started this program in the city of Chicago, called Developing Young Leaders, where it introduced underrepresented minorities to healthcare careers. Um, and so introducing them to like doctors, nurses, pharmacists. And so we got them CNA certified and pharmacy tech certified, while they were in high school, to help them get placed in jobs. So it could be a walk at the pharmacy, the Walgreens, or nursing, CNA certified nurse assistant in the hospital.
Hmm.
Um, and to get them in the workforce and let their imagination run wild from there, right? And so you're taking kids out of some of the most um, underfunded neighborhoods in the country,
Hmm.
and putting them in lab coats, and you're putting them, like, so you have them coming to a college every week to train, and then you're getting them placed in jobs with actual pharmacists and nurses, um, and getting them on the job training, but it wasn't just the training and coming back to the neighborhood having some money in your pocket. It was all about creating relationships in the workforce that's going to last them a lifetime. And so, and getting around people that you might be working with a doctor, and they might say, oh, instead of being a pharmacist, I want to be a neurologist, or
Hmm.
whatever the case may be. And um, so just getting kids out of their comfort zone of the neighborhoods, and putting them in places to make them uncomfortable, but to get them comfortable enough to learn and thrive. Um, and so, like a programmatic approach like that takes
Hmm.
partnerships. It takes, it takes intention. It takes a great understanding of the motivation of young people right now, which
Right.
is the first motivation is like, okay, you can't go to some of these neighborhoods in Chicago, LA, and New York, and Miami, even some of the neighborhoods here in Charlotte, and
Hmm.
say, okay, if you do this, like in 4 years, you might have a job at X, Y, and Z company, right? And so to be intentional is like, okay, what are the programs that we can get these kids in the workforce like right now, and,
Right.
and to get them placed in different positions. And there's a lot, and there's a lot of certification programs that start at age 16,
Yep, there are.
right? And so if you're thinking about like whatever field you're in, and you just look up the type of programs that you can get the kids involved in at a younger age, as young as possible, to get them a foot in the door. That's the intention that's going to go around of creating the change that we want to see from a wealth gap perspective, and just from an opportunity and access perspective. And then fast forward, um, moving here, now we're building a community center in the neighborhood I grew up in. We're doing mixed income housing, and we partnered with the school district to build a 4K school, like a pre-K school. And because we know that ages 0 to 5 is the age that people leave, like they leave other groups behind based off of the access that they had to education, or the lack of access that they had to
Right.
education that leave them behind. So we've been intentional to make sure in this neighborhood, which is 85% of the residents are below the poverty line. And so we make sure we put a school in the neighborhood so the kids don't have to, the parents don't have to worry about childcare and everything. They, like, so they can have access to the school. They can walk to the school, and after school they can come right to the community center if they have to. If they don't have access, or the parents have to work to 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon and can't pick them up, they have opportunities to come to after school program right in the community center. And then we have access to other pathway programs when it comes, like I mentioned, the healthcare. We have technology, we have engineering, we have entrepreneurship. And so we have a ton of pathway programs to introduce these kids to, at an even earlier age. So when they get to the age of certification or access to the certification, we can do it lock and step. And it gives them opportunities to pick and choose and have opportunities like, okay, I might not like, they can try every program and
Mhm.
figure out which one they like. And then we have a sports aspect to it, because um, you can't beat the lessons that you can learn in a lacrosse and a football or a baseball, just from a teamwork and adversity and perseverance standpoint. And then you fast forward that to what I'm doing at Paradise Equity Partners, and we're being real intentional about bringing more people of color into private equity, venture capital, investment banking, by working with and looking to partner with HBCUs and local high schools and things of that nature to get internship programs, so we can actually train these kids on the job of what it looks like to work inside of one of these firms. And if they work with us, if they work with another institution, it doesn't, like, saying, it doesn't matter to me, as long as we providing that opportunity to bring more diversity and inclusion into the space. And so for us, um, it's been a mission-based program with for me and for the longest, and now I'm just bringing that into um, the nonprofit and for-profit world that I'm living in.
Yeah, it's so spectacular because what do people really want? They want to have self-esteem. They want to have dignity in what they do, and they want to have purpose. And I don't think I know. I think I can't say every single person in the world, but most people just want the opportunity to do that and
Right.
have that and not be looked down on because you didn't go to the best named college or whatever.
Exactly.
But you can have high qualifications on being a caregiver or being something in tech or being whatever and getting a great job, and you have your house and you have your family, and I mean, to put it simply, you're feeling good.
Feeling good, man. Feel real good.
Exactly. And that
Yeah,
and
for sure.
really, isn't that what just anybody wants?
Yeah, I know, but I think sometimes um, society says you need more.
Right.
And if you don't get outside of that, like if you can't really find a foundation of um love, and like we were talking about, caring, like around you, and understand, like at the end of the day, this is all I really need. Everything else after this is value add. And if it doesn't add value, I don't do it. And so um once you get into the foundation, like, I'm not searching for nothing. I'm not chasing nothing. I have what I need, and everything I do from here is just going to build on to what the foundation is. And I think most people, um, if they realize what their foundation is, if like figure out what their why is and their purpose, and the type of impact that they want to make, um, I think that they will understand it then. I think they will understand it then.
Yeah. Well, greed and ego kill, if you will.
Yeah. Right.
And,
Right.
and we have to care about each other more. It's a simplistic statement, but what we do. And I think it's a great start what you're doing there. And do you find that, and we're excited because we're involved in a lot of these systemic changes um, to bring people in underserved and minority communities to at least have equal access to healthcare, have equal access to education.
Hmm.
Give that opportunity. So I think what you're doing is fantastic. Do you see? I mean, COVID's been a crazy year. A lot of differences of opinions and how to handle this, how to handle that. I mean, I
Yeah.
mean, people are overwhelmed basically
Right.
what to do. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask, whatever. All the conversations, and
Right.
uh, and then you got technology moving at the speed of light still.
Right.
Um,
Not slowing down.
from wildfires to snowstorms. I mean, Mother Nature's not really a happy lady right now.
Right.
Um, in the communities you work with and people, from underserved to investment banking and in between, do you find there's been, for lack of a better word, an awakening of what really is important? Like you said before, do I have what I need to, but what really is important?
I think so. Like I think there's been an awakening, um, for the most part. Like for the most part, I think it's enhanced people that was already in like in the space. I
Right.
think I think the world becoming a little bit more aware has helped enhance the other people that's been doing the work along the way, regardless.
Mhm.
Um, and so I think, because of the things that happened with the social justice with the George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, and then in the middle, like then the pandemic like hit, or the pandemic hit, and then everybody's at home and they got to see a lot of
Exactly.
these things, going on. Um, I think it brought a level of awareness because people was distracted by the stuff. And so when you're not distracted by the stuff, and you have to really, really take this in and really see what's going on in the world, because an individual like me, like it was like it didn't really change much for me as an individual. It just gave me time to really, really plan even more some of the things that I wanted to do. And from a organization standpoint, when I was working at Morgan Stanley during the middle of it. And so, um, it made me realize that, from a professional standpoint, um, that I was being that I was successful, but I wasn't really being productive,
Mm.
right? And so, and having my own firm allows me to really, really be productive, and really being intentional, having an impact, and having the voice that I've needed, in my professional career, to really bring companies together, and help me with the work that we're doing. But, I definitely think there's been an awakening to a certain extent, because I, I just I just hope that once the world really opens back up, that the people that's been committed to it, stay committed to it, and not letting it fade like things in the past. When, like, so you get distracted by award shows, you get distracted by sporting events, you get distracted by whatever it is. You get distracted by it, instead of staying locked in and being intentional about creating the change that we want to see.
Yeah, because we have short memories,
Yep.
um, and that's why this word systemic change is really important to us. There's, I've seen it in business too, where a person looks at another person and without even talking to them for a second, stereotypes exactly where they think they can fit or not fit, or do or not
Right.
do. And
Mm-hmm.
even with stuff we do with talent, even the onboarding, even the job descriptions, don't apply to everybody. Men,
No.
women, black, white, or whatever, they're different. I mean, I'm a
Right.
Canadian white Jewish guy. I'm going to have a little different onboarding than a woman of color with the
Right.
same credentials going in.
Yes. Yes.
Have
And
you found? I'm sure you've seen that.
oh yeah. Oh yes. Oh yes. For sure. And there was a lot of conversations with the executives of when I was working in private wealth, that I used to try to tell them, like the things that you're training everybody else for, doesn't apply to me. Like, these are the type of resources that I need to be productive.
Hmm.
Like, these are the things that I need so I can go out and really, really, like, say, had the impact that I know I can have in this field. And um and they listen to a certain extent. And like I said, it just got to a point to where, um I couldn't do it anymore.
Right.
And I know I'm not the only person that's in any field that has felt that way. When you because it's this thing, like, you probably have that, like, they call it a gut feeling.
Right.
um like, when you know it, like, when something that you just know, like, if, like, just listen to me, I promise you, like, this is what's going to happen if you can just believe in me. But that goes to the vision part too. Like, sometimes your vision, like, it's your vision, like, it's not meant for other people to see. So, sometimes you have to go out and um paint the picture for them to see it,
Yeah.
in action. So
And I think you hit a key word there. It's a very simple word, but really important word, and that's listen. Like
Yeah.
like for really actively listen,
Yes.
versus, a lot of people kind of listen until there's a pause and then they get their stuff in, but they really
Yeah.
didn't listen to what the other
Right.
person. And I do find that people initially, if they really know you actually heard them, even if there's disagreement, there's a way out and a way ahead there, because
Yeah.
because they feel you really heard them. Okay, now we can
Yes.
figure out, you think this way, I think that way. Okay, but we heard each other. Now we can figure it out. It's like a sports team. You buy in and you get on the same page. Maybe you disagree that you should do this system or that system.
Right.
But let's figure out the ways we're going to win the championship, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And that's what makes Bill Belichick probably the greatest coach greatest football coach. Probably the greatest coach
Hmm.
that ever lived. Because when you look at his teams, it's almost like positionless football almost. Um, and every week he game plan. He don't have a plan that's like, okay, this is my system. This is what I'm going to do. It all depends on the team that he's playing.
Right.
Every single week is based off of, okay, this is what we're going to do this week. Um, and what players that might be on the field, like you never know. Like you might have a couple of your mainstays, but then you have certain guys they're just switchblades. You can just kind of put them anywhere because they fit into what we need to do this week to win. And some coaches, like they won't do that. And some organizations, like saying, whether it's banking or real estate, whatever the case may be, they won't make the change based off of the talent that they have in the pool. And I take that mentality into everything that I do. Like, because they're like, you never know it. As soon as you think you know it all, you lost.
Pretty well.
As soon as you think you're the smartest guy in the room, you might as well just go ahead and retire and chalk it up, um because it's over, man. Because
Well,
you, there's
you're right. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, yeah, no, because there has to be constant growth and flexibility and um adjustments and everything that goes along when you're planning for any type of success in anything. Like you have to be flexible enough and fluid enough to be able to be fluid and adjust on the move.
And we can probably segue now into your firm, how you determine, you know, who to invest in. Because investing in a person, let's say a woman of color, for example, there's a lot of times that person's never been a CEO of anything. That person's never been this, that, or the other. But don't you have to also look at, you talked about talent in football, what you think that person's capability is, what do you think that person's smarts are, what their savvy is, whatever, and you're investing in them. So talk to us a little bit about how you're running your new business with respect to, I know it's sports and entertainment. Tell us a little bit about
Mhm.
all the aspects of it.
Well, I think the main thing um, that 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 I look at is definitely if I can add value to it. That's the first thing that I think about if when somebody present anything to me. It's like, what can I bring to the table to make this thing bigger and
Mhm.
grow? And the other thing is believing in the person with the vision behind it. And yes, and you're correct. They've probably never been a CEO, CFO, or COO, ran a company, um, but their value is understanding what they're doing, and how to and knowing how to explain that, and even sell it to a certain extent.
Mhm.
Um, and so understanding that dynamic when it comes to, like, saying, let's say if it's a woman of color, man of color, or whatever the case may be, in sports and entertainment, understanding that space. And I just really dig into, like, okay, um, is this a company that can be scaled, and what type of value can I add to that scalability? And I kind of just keep it as simple as that. I kind of keep it as simple as that. Like understanding the person, see how passionate they are about the business, see how much knowledge they have around the business they built, or they want to build out even more, scale even more, and what type of value that we can add as an organization to come in to help them achieve some of these goals.
Well, I love the way you start with what value you can bring them, because it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm that person and the first thing I hear or feel is you trying to figure out what value you can bring to me to grow this, number one, I'm thinking I want him to invest in us, not that person over there to invest in us who's just trying to
Yeah,
change our company and sell it in 2 years or something. I mean,
right,
there's going to be an exit strategy most likely at some
right,
point, but
right.
you want to do it with someone that believes in you and brings extra value to help you achieve your goal, not make it their goal or vision.
Yeah, because if I don't believe in it from that standpoint, we just won't do it. Like
Right.
I don't care how much money it could potentially make or whatever the case may be. If I'm not passionate like if I can't become passionate about adding bringing resources to the table, like I wouldn't do it. It just doesn't make sense um from the ethos of our company standpoint. Like everything we do, this is leaders who care. All right. And so and so leaders who care is not, it's not based on the type of money that you can make. It's based off the type of impact you can have.
And sometimes I think, yeah, you're right on. Sometimes, a lot of times, it's not just the money you're bringing in.
Yeah. Yeah. People invest millions of dollars in companies all the time that fail.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
all the time. Like all the time. Like every single day you could look on PitchBook or Crunchbase. Like somebody has invested 10, 15, $20 million in the company, and that went bottom up. And so
Yeah.
it can't always be about that. Like it has to be, especially when you're investing other people's money, you have to be good stewards of that decision. And I want to make sure that we're being good stewards of those decisions.
Because you're one of the leaders who care, man. That's the whole point.
Yeah, for sure.
That segue, that was
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
So last question on this part. We're into 2021. Everybody's had, and one thing, going back to a thing before, I love the word essential workers now. We always used to have unskilled and this and that, and it took the
Hmm.
dignity away from like your job means nothing, a grocery clerk, or whatever. And we
Hmm.
finally changed that to essential. And I think some of the stuff you're doing really hits home on that. And I wanted to make sure I mentioned that because what you had said before really, really hit me. It was good. So with so much happening or happened in 2020, and now 2021 starts, what are you most grateful for, and what do you see 2021 looking like?
Well, it, you have to be grateful for your health, right? Like we're able to sit here and have this conversation, and we know over 500,000 people are not, just based off of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And so I'm definitely grateful for being able to stay healthy throughout this whole process and be here for my family and my friends, and um, because um, when it's such an unknown of what's going on, you can't take that for granted. You just can't take that for granted. So that's, if I'm grateful for anything, is because we're sitting here right now having this conversation, and a lot of people are not able to do that.
Right on. And
Yeah,
how do you see 2021 shaping up?
I see it. It's going to be amazing, man. We have some great things in the work, like I mentioned. Like um we have the campaign for my center and the school and everything is starting to run the swing. We have some great opportunities with some companies that we're looking to purchase this year, and so we're kind of just going through the due diligence process of that. Um, it's been a ride, like coming from, like I said, coming from private wealth and coming into private equity. It's been a ride, but it's been one of those things to where I made the decision because I knew um, how to be productive in this world and type of impact I can have in this world, and if I'm able to carve out my own path. And so I'm looking forward. It's going to be a hell of a year. It's going to be a hell of a year. And so and the hell of a year means I'll be in LA a lot. So
That works for me. I get to meet
so
in person. That'd be fantastic.
yeah, yeah.
I might be in Carolina too. One last thing. I remember Kobe saying this even before he tragically passed away, but he said, everybody's looking for the dream, and that's good. We should go for the dream, and that's important. but he said, you know what you got to realize? This is the dream right now.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The moments that we have,
Yeah.
like the moments that we have, like, and I tell people all the time, like, um, the first, like, I don't remember much from basically when I walked out of high school in 1996 until I stopped playing football, really in 2006. And I don't remember much because I never, it was always hustle, always grind, always. I
Mm.
never took in the moment. I never sat down. Even when I was with my family, my mind was always thinking about like what I'm working on, what I need to be, what I'm supposed to be doing, the next game, the next play, the next business, whatever the case may be. I was not there. Like I was I was there physically, but I wasn't present at any point. And so um once I got to the point to where I started taking in and really enjoying my moments, everything, and now like I have great memories now from 2010 on maybe, uh, but I make sure now I take the time to really sit down, cut off my iPad, turn off my cell phone, and really enjoy the people that I'm with consistently, like all the time. And so um, and you cannot take that for like I definitely don't take that my moments for granted. And so
Well, you got
so Kobe
Stephanie and you got,
he was very right on that. So
yeah, you got
so,
Stephanie, you got
yeah,
Sophia. So those are good. Do
yeah.
you have a dog, by the way?
No. We don't like that's enough. That's I got two women in the house. I don't need three people teaming up on
Yeah, you're outvoted for sure. So
me. Yeah.
hey, shout out to Dr. Gloria for introducing us.
Yeah, man, she's
I
amazing.
really
She's
appreciate that.
amazing.
And you are one of the leaders who cares. So thanks for being on the series and joining as a guest. And I look forward to meeting live and in person someday
Oh
soon.
yeah, we'll figure that out for sure. Yeah,
Cool,
we'll
man.
figure that out.
Thanks.
All right, thank you, Mark.